August 20, 1944, 02:17 hours, somewhere outside Chartres, France. The rain has just stopped, but the mud still clings to everything. Boots, truck tires, torn uniforms, even the air smells like wet canvas and cordite. Inside a candle-lit stone farmhouse that used to belong to a wine merchant, 3 German officers sit at a wooden table. Their hands are cuffed. Their field caps lie upside down on the floor. Their eyes flick toward the door every time footsteps pass in the hallway. Outside, engines idle, radios crackle. American artillery thumps somewhere beyond the hedgerows. The front has collapsed, and they know it. A U.S. Army intelligence captain steps inside and closes the door. He carries a folder thick with reports and photographs. He doesn't sit, he just looks at them. One of the Germans finally speaks. "Bit not Patton." The interpreter hesitates, then repeats it in English. "Please not Patton." The Americans exchange glances. The captain leans forward. "What do you mean, not Patton?" The German colonel swallows. His uniform is stained with oil and dust. His iron cross hangs crooked on his chest. His voice shakes. "Any American unit, any British unit, we will surrender, but if you send us to Patton's sector, we will not survive." The room goes quiet. Somewhere outside, a Sherman tank rumbles past. This is not the first time they've heard it. And it won't be the last. 2 weeks earlier, the German army in France still believed it could stabilize the front. After the Normandy landings, Hitler had thrown everything west: panzer divisions, SS formations, Luftwaffe squadrons stripped from the Eastern Front, the elite of the Wehrmacht sent to stop the Americans from breaking out of the hedgerows. Field Marshal Gunther von Kluge had promised Berlin that the line would hold. Then Operation Cobra began. At dawn on July 25th, more than 3,000 Allied bombers carpeted the German positions near St. Lo. The earth shook, trenches collapsed, entire battalions vanished under firestorms of high explosive. And through the smoke came Patton. General George S. Patton Jr. had been waiting for this moment for months. While the world watched Montgomery and Bradley grind through Normandy, Patton's Third Army sat in reserve, hidden from German intelligence by one of the greatest deception operations in history. The 1st U.S. Army Group, a phantom army, fake radios, inflatable tanks, dummy landing craft. Patton was supposed to be the spearhead of a second invasion at Pas-de-Calais. Instead, he became the hammer. On August 1st, his army was unleashed. Within 72 hours, Patton's armor had broken through the German flank and was pouring into open country. His columns drove day and night, tanks leading, half-tracks behind, trucks loaded with fuel and infantry stretching for miles. No pauses, no regrouping, no waiting for orders. Patton told his corps commanders, "Don't hold ground, take it." They did. Towns fell in hours. German strongpoints were bypassed, encircled, erased. Entire divisions were cut off before they even knew the Americans were behind them. By mid-August, the German 7th Army was trapped in what would become known as the Falaise pocket. And inside that pocket, panic spread. Back in the interrogation room, another German officer speaks. This one is younger, a major from the 2nd SS Panzer Division. "We prepared for Montgomery," he says. "We prepared for Bradley. We studied their doctrine, their tempo, their caution." He laughs softly. But Patton, he does not fight like an army commander. He fights like a cavalry raider. The intelligence captain flips open his folder. Aerial photographs, burned-out Panthers, abandoned supply convoys, columns of prisoners marching under guard. "You had Tigers," the captain says. "You had elite divisions. Why didn't you stop him?" The major shakes his head. "You cannot stop what you cannot predict." He points to a map on the wall. "Here at Avranches, We believed he would turn north toward Brittany. Instead, he turned east, then south, then north again. Every time we shifted reserves, he was already somewhere else. The colonel leans forward, his cuffs clinking. Your general does not fight battles, he hunts. The reports begin stacking up. From the 5th Panzer Army. From Panzer Lehr. From the 116th Panzer Division. Every interrogation tells the same story. Patton's tanks appearing out of morning fog. Patton's artillery firing before German radios finish warning the rear. Patton's armored spearheads driving straight through command posts. One prisoner describes watching an entire shatter, a German headquarters, get overrun while officers were still shaving. Another says his battalion commander shot himself when American Shermans burst through a forest road they thought was impassable. They don't talk about Patton like a general. They talk about him like a storm. At Supreme Headquarters Allied Expeditionary Force, Eisenhower reads the summaries. He sits behind a desk cluttered with maps and dispatches. A cigarette burns down between his fingers. Eisenhower is not a battlefield general. He is a coalition commander, a politician in uniform, a man whose job is to keep Montgomery and Patton from killing each other before they kill the Germans. But now something is bothering him. Every captured officer asks the same question. Where is Patton? Not Montgomery. Not Bradley. Not even the British armor advancing from the north. They want to know where Patton is. And when they find out, their shoulders slump. Their eyes drop. One general from the Wehrmacht High Command reportedly said, if Patton is coming, then the war in France is already over. Eisenhower reads that line twice. Then a third time. On August 16th, Patton's forces link up with Canadian troops at Chambois. The Falaise pocket closes. Inside, more than 50,000 German soldiers are trapped. American artillery pounds the roads. Fighter-bombers strafe the columns. French civilians watch as the remnants of Hitler's Western Army try to escape through burning wreckage. And still Patton pushes. He wants to drive east, toward Paris, toward the German border. He sends a message to Eisenhower. Give me gasoline, and I will go to Berlin. Eisenhower doesn't reply. Not yet. Because on his desk is another interrogation report. A captured general, decorated, veteran of Poland, France, Russia. When asked what he fears most about the Allied advance, he doesn't mention air power. He doesn't mention artillery. He doesn't mention numbers. He says one word. Patton. Eisenhower leans back in his chair. For the first time since Normandy, he allows himself to believe it. The Germans are not just losing. They are afraid. And they are afraid of one man. Outside the farmhouse, the night is quiet again. The German officers are led away. As they pass the parked Shermans and half-tracks, one turns to the interpreter. Where is his army now? The interpreter hesitates. Then answers. Already moving east. The officer closes his eyes. Eisenhower stares at the map of France. Red arrows slicing across green countryside. Patton's arrow is the longest. And it isn't slowing down. Not yet. August 22, 1944, 05:41 hours, near the Seine River. The fog is thick enough to taste. It hangs low over the fields and villages, clinging to church steeples and shattered barns. Somewhere ahead, German engineers are trying to blow the last bridges. Somewhere behind, American fuel trucks grind forward, their engines coughing under the weight of jerry cans stacked to the canvas roof. At the head of the column, an M4 Sherman idles beside the road. Its commander scans the mist with binoculars. Any sign of Krauts? The radio crackles. Negative, but Third Army says move anyway. The tank lurches forward. The chase is on. Patton has turned the war into a pursuit. No more trench lines. No more static fronts. No more waiting for reinforcements. Just movement. Columns of armor racing through French villages where civilians run into the streets waving flags. Children chase half-tracks. Old men cry as American soldiers throw them chocolate and cigarettes. Then the cheering fades. Because the war is always just ahead. Burned German trucks block the roads. Dead horses lie in ditches. Abandoned artillery pieces sit in fields, their crews gone. Everywhere signs of collapse. The German retreat is no longer organized. It is survival. And Patton is not letting them rest. At 3rd Army headquarters, Patton stands over a map spread across the hood of a jeep. His ivory-handled pistols gleam in the morning light. His helmet is scuffed from riding forward with the lead elements. Major General Manton Eddy waits beside him. "We've got reports of German columns moving east toward the Seine," Eddy says. "If they cross, we'll have to fight them again inside the Reich." Patton stabs the map with a riding crop. "Then we don't let them cross." "But sir, our fuel situation." Patton cuts him off. "Find me gas, steal it, beg it, borrow it. I don't care how you get it. I want tanks on that river by nightfall." Eddy nods. He knows better than to argue. The Germans know Patton is coming. They hear it on every frequency. American armored spearheads probing the flanks. Recon units appearing where German maps show nothing but forests and farm roads. Paratroopers dropping behind retreating columns. One German lieutenant later writes, "It felt as though the Americans were everywhere and nowhere. We never knew which road was safe." In one village near Dreux, a German battalion commander orders his men to dig in. An hour later, Patton's tanks come through the next village over and cut the road behind them. They never fire a shot. They simply leave. At SHAEF headquarters, Eisenhower receives a new wave of prisoner reports. This time, they come from officers captured near the Seine crossings. One major from the 9th Panzer Division is still shaking when he speaks. "We had orders to hold the bridge at all costs," he says. "We were told Patton was days away." He laughs bitterly. "He was already on the road behind us." Another officer, a staff colonel, admits something few German commanders are willing to say. "We cannot maneuver against him. He moves faster than our orders." The interpreter hesitates before translating. "He outruns our command structure." That sentence stays with Eisenhower. Because speed is not supposed to work like this. Armies are massive machines. They need fuel, food, ammunition, repairs. They are supposed to slow down as they advance. Patton is accelerating. On August 25th, Paris is liberated. Patton is furious. He wanted to bypass the city and keep driving east. He wanted to trap more Germans before they reached the German border. Instead, he watches as French crowds celebrate in the streets. "Hell of a place for a tank battle," he mutters. But even as the cameras roll in Paris, 3rd Army is already gone. Eastward. Always eastward. By the end of August, Patton's spearheads have crossed the Marne. His tanks reach the Meuse. They are now closer to Germany than any Allied force since 1940. German radio traffic becomes frantic. Requests for reinforcements that no longer exist, orders to form defensive lines with units that have been destroyed, panzer divisions that exist only on paper. One intercepted message reads, "Patton's armor has appeared on our southern flank, again." Another, "Enemy tanks in our rear, we are being hunted." At Eisenhower's headquarters, the map is changing by the hour. Red pins mark Patton's advance. Each pin is dated. The spacing between them grows wider. The staff officers whisper, No Allied army has ever moved this fast. Not in North Africa. Not in Sicily. Not in Normandy. This is something new. Something dangerous. Something unstoppable. A British liaison officer watches Eisenhower study the map. Montgomery says Patton is overextended, he says carefully, that his supply lines are too long, that the Germans will counterattack and cut him off. Eisenhower nods. It is a reasonable concern. It is what doctrine predicts. But then he looks at the prisoner reports again. The fear, the desperation, the way even veteran German officers talk about Patton like a force of nature. And Eisenhower realizes something unsettling. The Germans are no longer planning offensives. They are planning escapes. On August 30th, Patton's lead elements reach the Moselle River. Germany is now within sight. The men are exhausted. Many have been awake for 2 days straight. Engines overheat. Tracks need replacing. Fuel gauges hover near empty. And yet the radios keep crackling. Advance when ready. Push forward. Exploit the breakthrough. Patton refuses to slow. Because he knows what the Germans are trying to do. They are trying to regroup. They are trying to build a new line. And once they do, the war becomes slow again. Bloody again. That night, Eisenhower receives one final interrogation report. A captured German general from Army Group G. When asked if the Wehrmacht can stop the American advance, he answers without hesitation. Yes, but not if Patton is allowed to continue. Eisenhower folds the paper. For the first time since D-Day, he feels something close to awe. And something close to fear. Because he is beginning to understand what the Germans already know. Patton is not just winning battles. He is breaking the idea of resistance itself. And now the road leads straight into Germany, where the last defenses are waiting, and where the cost of speed will finally be tested. September 1, 1944, 06:12 hours, near the Moselle River, France. Dawn breaks through low clouds, casting pale light over a valley choked with armor. Shermans idle nose to tail on narrow roads. Tank destroyers sit hull down behind hedgerows. Fuel trucks inch forward, their drivers slumped over steering wheels, eyes burning from exhaustion. The men haven't slept. Some haven't shaved in weeks. They don't complain. They just wait. Across the river, the German frontier lies only a few ridgelines away. And somewhere on the far bank, the enemy is digging in. Patton stands on a hill overlooking the Moselle. He studies the river with binoculars, chewing on a cigar. His boots are caked with dust from a month of constant movement. His uniform smells of gasoline and sweat. Major General Walton Walker joins him. The bridges are gone, Walker says. Engineers are trying to throw a pontoon across, but German artillery's ranging the site. Patton lowers the binoculars. Then we go somewhere else. Sorry. We find a crossing they don't expect, tonight. Walker hesitates. Our men are at the end of their strength. Patton looks at him. So are theirs. The German High Command knows this moment is coming. For weeks they've been scrambling to build a defensive line along the German border. The Siegfried Line, the West Wall, concrete bunkers, dragon's teeth, anti-tank ditches. Hitler orders it held at all costs. But Patton is already at the doorstep. In intercepted radio messages, German commanders beg for time. We need 10 days. We need reinforcements. We need fuel. They get none. Instead, they get Patton. That night, under cover of darkness, American engineers slide pontoons into the Moselle. Infantry wade across with ropes in their teeth. Tank crews push Shermans onto floating bridges while German shells splash into the water. A bridge collapses. Another holds. By dawn, American armor is across. Patton's army has crossed the last natural barrier before Germany. At SHAEF headquarters, Eisenhower receives the news. Third Army across the Moselle. The room falls silent. This was supposed to take weeks. Montgomery's forces are still fighting to clear the Channel ports. Bradley is consolidating in Normandy. Patton is already on Germany's doorstep. The staff officers look at Eisenhower. They want to know if they should believe it. He exhales slowly. Confirm it. The confirmation comes an hour later. Photographs of American tanks rolling through German border villages. Stars and stripes flying over customs houses. German civilians watching in disbelief as Patton's columns thunder past their farms. The war has reached the Reich, and it arrived ahead of schedule. German prisoners now refuse to be sent to Third Army sectors. They beg guards to send them north, to the British, to anyone else. One Waffen SS sergeant spits on the ground when he hears Patton's name. He does not fight by rules, he says. He fights to kill you before you understand you are fighting. Another officer says, with him the front does not exist, only the direction of his tanks. The reports stack up on Eisenhower's desk. Again, and again, and again. Patton presses forward toward Metz. Metz is a fortress city. Its ring of 19th century forts was built to stop the French. Now it stands in Patton's way. German generals believe it will slow him for months. Patton believes it will fall in days. He is wrong. The Germans fight hard here. They know if Metz holds, the Saar industrial region is safe. The Ruhr stays protected. The war continues. Rain turns the ground into mud. Tanks bog down. Infantry crawl through minefields under machine gun fire. For the first time since Normandy, Patton is forced to slow. And the Germans sense it. In Berlin, Hitler finally believes the Western Front is in danger. He orders a new offensive. A counterattack. A strike so powerful it will split the Allied armies and force them to negotiate. The plan is drawn up in secrecy. In the Ardennes. The Americans will call it the Battle of the Bulge. At SHAEF, Eisenhower studies intelligence reports. German troop movements in the forests. Fuel stockpiles being hidden. Panzer divisions refitting. Something is coming. But no one knows where. Patton is convinced it will come against him. Bradley thinks it will hit Montgomery. Montgomery thinks the Germans are finished. Eisenhower is not so sure. He has read too many interrogation reports. He knows the Germans still have teeth. And he knows exactly which Allied commander they fear most. One night, Eisenhower receives a final message from a German general captured near Metz. When asked what the Wehrmacht plans to do next, the general replies, "We must strike before Patton reaches the Rhine. If he does, the war is lost." Eisenhower sets the paper down. Now the picture is complete. Patton is no longer just advancing. He is forcing the enemy's hand. He is dictating the pace of the war. And soon, the Germans will gamble everything to stop him. In the Ardennes forest, tanks begin to move. In secret. Through snow and fog. Toward the quietest sector of the American line. Where Patton is not. Yet. Type continue to generate the next section. Section 4, The Winter Trap. December 16, 1944, 05:30 hours, Ardennes Forest, Belgium. Snow drifts across a frozen road. The trees stand black and silent, their branches heavy with ice. In the dark, engines rumble under canvas covers. Tank crews breathe into their gloves. Infantry stamp their boots to stay warm. Then the German artillery opens fire. The forest explodes. Shells tear through American foxholes. Telephone lines snap. Command posts vanish in clouds of dirt and splinters. And from the mist, German armor rolls forward. The last great gamble of the Third Reich has begun. The American lines in the Ardennes buckle. Green divisions crumble under the weight of the assault. Roads clog with refugees and retreating units. Entire regiments are surrounded before they know a battle has started. Radio traffic turns desperate. Enemy breakthrough. Tanks everywhere. We are being overrun. The Germans punch a massive bulge into the Allied front. The world will call it the Battle of the Bulge. Eisenhower calls it a nightmare. At SHAEF headquarters, the news hits like a hammer. Maps are dragged onto tables, pins are ripped out and moved, lines are redrawn. The Germans have split the American armies. If they reach the Meuse River, the war could turn. Eisenhower listens to reports with his jaw clenched. Then he turns to Patton. George Patton has been sitting quietly in the corner, waiting. "How fast can you turn your army north?" Eisenhower asks. Patton doesn't hesitate. 48 hours. The room stares at him. "That's impossible," someone says. Patton shrugs. "When do you want me to start?" 3 days later, Third Army pivots 90 degrees. In the middle of winter. On frozen roads. Under snowstorms. An entire army turns on its axis and charges into the Ardennes. It is one of the greatest maneuver operations in military history. And the Germans never see it coming. At Bastogne, the 101st Airborne is surrounded. German tanks ring the town. Supplies are gone. Ammunition is running low. The German commander sends an ultimatum. Surrender. The American reply is one word. Nuts. The Germans prepare to crush them. Then Patton arrives. His armor smashes into the southern flank of the German advance. His infantry punches corridors through snow-covered forests. His artillery pounds the roads German reinforcements need to use. The siege is broken. The German timetable collapses. And the offensive begins to die. Captured German officers are brought in again. This time, their faces look different. Not defiant. Not confident. Just tired. One general from the 5th Panzer Army shakes his head. "We believed Patton was too far south," he says. "We believed the snow would stop him." He exhales slowly. "We were wrong." Another says, "Your general turned winter into a weapon." By January, the Bulge is gone. The German army is shattered. Its last reserves are burned. Its fuel is gone. Its momentum is broken forever. The road to the Rhine lies open. Eisenhower stands over the map once more. Patton's arrow has turned north, then east again. It is moving toward the heart of Germany. And this time, nothing stands in the way. The interrogations continue. But the tone has changed. No more begging. No more bargaining. Only resignation. One German colonel says it plainly. The war ended when Patton broke our army in France. Everything since has only been delay. Eisenhower nods. He finally understands what the prisoners were trying to tell him months ago. Patton was never just a general. He was the end. And